And we are live on this week's Flippinar. Welcome, this is Ty, aka the Flip Man, and here's your opportunity to get your questions and answers for your real estate investing path, mainly wholesaling, because you know that's what I focus on. So before we get into that, while we're waiting for people to join, go ahead and start loading your questions in the chat room, and I'll be happy to answer those. Also, just to do a little house cleaning, make sure you check out my 200 plus videos here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. More than likely, if you're getting the notification, you're already subscribed, so that's a good thing. So again, welcome to this week's Flippinar. We'll just hold off for a second, but I'll start answering questions as soon as they pop up. Try to get as many in as possible. And I see people already here, so hello to you all also. Tabitha, Eddie, and I'm not sure about the other name, it's a little scrambled. Someone says, I'm not sure about their handle, so you can put a name there also, but I'm in the DMV area. Is that a good area to start wholesaling? Let me ask you, do people die in your market? Do they get divorced? Do they lose their jobs? Do they relocate? Do you think you have some retired landlords there? Do people get sick? I mean, creating medical bills, people inherit properties. Being a little sarcastic, but yes, you can wholesale there because those reasons, those situations, just everyday life causes motivation, which means you can actually wholesale there. So any market of that size, you're going to be able to kill it. No one person, no one group of people can come close to doing all the deals out there. So to answer your question, yes, you can. So we'll go with the next question. People are announcing where they're from. Thanks. See someone from Atlanta, someone Teresa in Maryland, Virginia. Teresa B. What's going on? Tyler Stewart says, have you ever had a seller sign another contract with someone else behind your back? Yes, I have had that to happen. And you can always take a legal course of action, but normally I just leave it alone. It's rarely happened, but it has happened. You know, I've been doing this 14 years, so I just move on. But some people, they'll stick with it or whatever. But that's going to cost you money. So to get an attorney, so if you have that war chest ready to go, roll with it. But I just move on. There's too many deals out there to worry about that. But most people are not going to do that. All right, let me see here what we got. See, someone is in Birmingham here, Kiki B. All right. Tabitha says, what can I do first to get leads? Tabitha, the free way of just attracting leads would targeting landlords. And I'm a big bandit sign believer. I prefer to spend a little money, a couple $100 to get my phone ringing. But if you don't have a budget for that, then you can hit the ground running by just targeting tired landlords or for rent signs or for rent properties, either online or off, Craigslist, Zillow. Offline, you're just targeting the red and white generic signs. Or the black and white sign that you can get at Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's. So you call them, simply ask them, is the property still available? Whether they say yes or no. Your response is going to be is that I'm not calling about selling, buying, renting the house. I'm calling to see if you'll be interested in selling the property. If they say no, your follow-up question should be, well, do you have any other properties that you would be interested in selling? If they still say no, then just think of for the time, let them know if anything changes to keep your number if they will. If they say yes, then you'll collect their information on the property and proceed on. So that's a way to generate leads if you don't have a budget for it. And a lot of people go online trying to find properties for sale. That's a much more difficult way of doing it. If you're doing an effective job of direct mail through yellow letters, postcards, or whatever, or even the way I do it, or banner signs, the largest group of people that are going to call you that are interested in selling are going to be tired landlords. So you can be proactive and just reverse rental listings to your favor and just reach out, start contacting them, see if they'll be interested in selling. Expect most people to either say no or the prices will be more than what's needed for you. That's, I don't care what form of lead generation you're doing, the majority of the people are not going to have a price or be asking a price that's going to work for you, but you're not selling pencils here. So you can operate on a 1 or 2% success rate over a 30-day cycle as far as the number of people you contact. If you contact enough, and that may mean $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. So boom, there you are. I may have been a little long on that one, but hopefully I answered it. All right. Joe Hicks says, what if we don't have the money to buy a proof of funds system? What are some alternatives to provide proof of funds? Well, Joe, in most cases, if you're dealing with just private sellers, you really don't need proof of funds. It's rare that a motivated seller is going to ask for proof of funds. Matter of fact, I had a lady call me last night. Normally I don't get calls that late, but she called and said she had some higher end properties. One of them was an hour and a half from here, north of where I live, and another one was in Tennessee. And she was like, you know, my houses are large. What do you all pay for houses? Do you pay the assessed value by the county, or do you pay retail? I don't want to go through a realtor, but I still want to try to get the best price. So, you know, I told her I'd be open to have to look at it. Depends on where it is, condition, and so on. And she was like, well, how I know I need to give my information? That you need to prove to me that you are who you are. I said, wait a minute, I said, hold on. Because I already know we were going to do a deal anyway, but I'm not going to just let anyone handle me like that anyway. Just too many people out there. I was like, wait a minute, lady, you probably need a realtor for what you're asking. I said, guys that do what I do, you're not going to be able to work with us, you know, because we're not going to feel obligated to proof up to you. You need to deal with a real estate agent. I know you say you don't, but that's what you need, because if you need someone, quote unquote, that you can verify who they are and all this stuff, that's who you need to go with then. So anyway, to answer your question, you're normally not going to need proof of funds unless you're going to be dealing with real estate agents. So if that's your goal, then yeah, you're going to have to get proof of funds from somewhere. If you don't have the money for that, because most of those services are going to cost, then I would highly recommend you targeting private owners, because I encourage you to do that anyway, you know, because proof of funds are not needed, because they're going to be motivated. They don't care about that. All right, so we have Jeremy Collins here. I just ran across a vacant. The tax records show that it's revocable. I think that's what he's trying to say. A revocable living trust with 3 people. What to do? Depending on the status, if all 3 of them have a equal ownership, then all 3 of them will make a decision on the property. You just have to reach out to one of them and see what the status is. Of course, that will all come out in the title work, but your first objective is to see if they are interested in selling the property by reaching out to whoever name or mailing address is on the actual tax records. You know, that's the first thing you're doing. From there, they'll let you know what the status is. They'll give you an idea of what they think it is anyway. So, but that's the first thing you want to do, is reach out to them to see if they're even interested in selling. All right, let me see here. Kulik Gilton says, can you add a memorandum with your seller contract to prevent someone from stealing, assaulting, I guess that's what he's saying, behind your back? You can. That's going to be totally up to you, man. It's just so rare that happens. It just did, but that's you can record a memorandum of contract if you want, but I never do. But again, that's going to be a personal thing. LaShawn Butler says, how can you do this with no money? Well, when it says no money, let me explain that part of it first, and then we'll get to the marketing side of getting leads. When you say you can do this no money, that simply means is that on the actual purchase of the property, when it closes, everybody's gotten paid. Your cash buyer is going to provide the money to close the deal. So that's why it means no money, no credit. Now, you can actually find deals without using money also. It's just more difficult. You have to be very persistent and patient and have a plan. As I just explained, targeting for rent, sounds retired landlords, that's free, so there you go, no money, but it's going to probably take you longer. I highly recommend spending a few $100s on marketing, getting your phone ringing, letting people know you exist. We buy houses, I buy houses, and the phone number. That simplifies the business of a great deal. All right. Quintina Young, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. So y'all, if I'm chopping these names up, forgive me. When performing a wholesale transaction, are end buyers interested in properties that are fully rehabbed for a discounted price? In most cases, Nick Young, they expect the property to need repaired. It's rare you're going to be able to even get a deal that's completely rehabbed and it's cheap. It just doesn't work that way. The reason that, not always, but when a lot of houses that I've done over the years and continue to do, they're livable, but they need some repairs depending on what the cash buyer's intent is. If they're going to retail the property, in most cases, they're going to make the property look brand new to give them the chance to sell the property quickly. So they expect stuff to be wrong with it is the point I'm trying to make. That's one of the reasons, and not always, is the reason that you're actually getting it cheap enough where you can wholesale it. So to answer your question, no, the property doesn't need to be in already rehabbed, by no means. All right, let me see here. All right, Elevate W. Is it a clause for the memorandum or is it a separate document? If you're going to record a contract, it's a separate document. All right, Pamela Don says, Ty, what if you live in a really small area, Gaston, Anniston, Oxford, good deals are on the MLS that investors aren't buying? How do you know they're good deals? In a lot of cases, they're just not cheap enough. Now, that is a small area, but you're going to always have investors even in those areas because it is small, but a lot of times in an area like that, it's going to reach out a little farther as far as the number of people that will invest in that area. But properties, they just have to be cheaper than probably what you're seeing on MLS. I don't know what your definition of a good deal is. You'd have to give me an ARV and a price, and I'll tell you probably, at least what I think, but each market is different. That's a different market than Birmingham, even though all of that is less than an hour and a half from here. But it's different, it's totally different. So I would have to see numbers to have an idea what you're really talking about. All right. Black and Yellow 1906 says, when marketing and promoting your business online, do you reveal your name or do you use an agent to keep bandit sign police from locating you? When people normally call me, I do give them my name at some point or whatever. I don't have those issues. I guess if I had that issue, maybe so, but I don't ever have those issues, man. It's just not like that here. It's not that deep. All right. Charlene Rice says, That's not a good question. We won't roll with that one. Another one, then we'll take action. Michael says, what time do you install bandit signs? You know what? I'm going to be releasing a bandit sign video probably either tomorrow or right after this if I feel like finishing it up. But I generally, I'll put bandit signs out any day of the week. I've actually started, well, yesterday, matter of fact, first time I've ever done this. I've been thinking about it probably for 3 or 4 years. Is that had hired a young man to just ride around with me, and I just pull up and let him jump out and put a bandit sign. And this was from 11 to 3 on yesterday. So it was what, Tuesday? Wednesday. So from 11 to 3 on Wednesday, we were putting out bandit signs. Now, preferably if I just had to pick days that I consider best, but I said I'll do them any day, early Saturday morning, early Sunday morning, just to choose some days. All right. All right. Note Face Kingpin says, I have a guy trying to sell for his mother, but his name is not on the title. His mother's name is. Can I run an option signed by him or must be with her? It needs to be signed with her. She's the owner. He's just letting you know it's for sale, but he's the owner. Mark Mancini, I think, are probates a good niche to go after? Yes, if you have the patience for it. I don't target probates directly. I just do absentee, and if a probate situation falls through the funnel, comes through the funnel, then I'll deal with it. But to target those, I don't have the organization skills or the patience for it. But yeah, people make money that way. That's another niche, or finding leads. Pablo says, have you been fine with your bandit signs? Never, not in 14 years to date. All right. Dylan Mullet says, how can I put a house on a contract if I have no income? Do I need to have a list of cash buyers beforehand? What if I can't find a cash buyer? What happens with the house I have on the contract? Well, that's the whole purpose of wholesaling, is that your cash or credit situation doesn't matter. Do you need a cash buyers list before you start? No. Your deals will build your cash buyers list. What if you what if you can't find a buyer and your contract expires? One or two things happens. You go back to the seller and ask for more time and they give it to you. You go back to the seller and ask for more time and they don't give it to you. If they don't, they keep your earnest money. You move on, they move on. All right. Gary Spence says, can you sell a house on your own, even if it's listed with a realtor? I guess what you're asking, can you wholesale a listed property? Yeah, you can. And just understanding how to deal with real estate agents and the process that you'll go through is a little different than when an agent is not involved. But to answer your question, yes, I have videos on that. You can just do a search here on YouTube. Just to let everyone know, someone may stumble on it. This is live Thursday night Flippinars, question and answer on real estate investing, mainly wholesaling. So you can rip away here in the chat room. So let me see here. Brian Jeffrey says, are you still giving away free seminars? I just figured out how to get to the live chat. I'm not sure if you answered this earlier. No, I'm not. I stopped giving away the free courses quite a couple of months ago. Kevin Jeter, have you ever used real estate agents to find buyers? Could agents increase your spread? I don't know if they can increase your spread or not, but they're not going to do anything for free. They're going to want to get paid. So I've tried to do that before with agents, but I've never had any success. If you run into the right agent that's resourceful and investor minded, you could probably use that to their advantage, but understand they want to get paid. Most of them just don't have the patience to wait on a wholesaler. So, but to answer your question, yeah, that's possible. Nothing I've never ever done before though. But Larry Taylor says, do you estimate your own repairs or do you use a general contractor? No, I don't use a general contractor. I estimate on repairs. I have a video on that. Just do a search here on YouTube for it. Okay, boom, let me see here. Gary Spence says, let me see, man, I don't want to miss anyone. I'm gonna try to go in order here. Posting, Marwan Rollison says, posting an ad on websites is that a good way to create leads for myself? It's a possibility that free, depending on what type of website you're talking about. Just depends on what demographics visit that particular site. I don't know. Again, it's too many factors go into that. How much traffic the site is, how is it related to possible homeowners or real estate property owners. So something is better than nothing. Nothing I would do. If you're asking if I would do it, no, it's nothing I would do. Gary Spence, can you do a quick claim deed on a house that has a mortgage? Well, you could, but I don't know how much ownership you're going to really have at that point with just a quick claim deed. Because that mortgage still has to be paid. All right, Marco Dale says, just saying thank you for the wisdom and advice. Thanks, Marco, for joining tonight. Tyler Stewart said, how many business signs do you have out at any one given time? I like to try to have 200 or more out. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, they're just constantly going out. So 200 or more is a good number, but you're going to always be doing them if you're going to use that method. Teresa B said, do you have specific areas or you target or zip codes? If so, why? I'm all over the board from the hood to higher end. So, and everything in between. So there's no particular area I target. Deals are everywhere. Some areas are easier than others, but I'm not beyond putting a deal together. The price just has to justify where it's located and its condition in order for it to be a deal. That doesn't matter where it is, but I'm not opposed to the lower end or the higher end, if you want to term them that way. All right, Marco Dale said, I just joined the Flippinar, how to start now with no experience. Take advantage of the 200 plus videos I have right here on YouTube. It's all here on my channel, free. Subscribe, turn on the notifications and dive in. The world is yours. It's all there. Marco said, what's the best list to direct mail or cold call? Well, you're normally not going to get unless you're, well, I guess you could target for sale by owners or for sale signs. Both work. I can't say one is better than the other. It's all going to depend on who you're targeting. It's going to how effective it's going to be, whether it's a list or whoever you cold calling. That's going to determine how effective are you going to be. And the main thing is you're going to be persistent with either or that you're doing. All right, Nicholas Loftus says, if the buyer wants to see the house in person before the purchase, how can you manage that situation? Yeah, I mean, it's rare a buyer is not going to want to see it. You just set it up. You know, if you don't have a key, you just have to manage it and set it up. Your goal is to get a key and place a lockbox there or whatever, but you know, they're going to want to see it. It's rare unless they're out of town buyer, but they're still going to probably send someone over to inspect it in some form of fashion. So that's normal. All right, I'm not sure about the name here, but I'm putting a property out for $41,000 with a $70,000 estimate. Is 41 too high? I didn't put it out yet, but for the market, I know it wouldn't work here. I don't know what the repairs are, but even with light repairs, 41 probably wouldn't work here. It just depends on your repairs, but each market is different. It may not last a day, you know, at that price. So I can't tell you without knowing what the repairs would be or what I think, but I know 41 wouldn't work. Marcus said, do you work with anyone in Stockton, California? No, sir. Ms. Young says, thank you for allocating time to answer my question. Thanks for asking your question and joining us here tonight. How do you deal with seller agents for REO properties who keep rejecting you? I don't target those. What's your rejection? The offers, why do they keep, this is from Russ, why do they keep rejecting it? Because you're offering too low? You got to be a little bit more informative on your question, but I don't even target those. So. Lodrick Weber says, concerning the earnest money, how low would be a good offer? I'm not sure what you mean. I've done $10 more than any number as far as the EMD, you know, but depending on the price of the property, that may not fly sometimes. So, but you have to be flexible with it. Lost my place here. All right. Pamela Brown says ARV is 80,000, listed for 30,000, 20,000 rehab. Location doesn't move fast, but would be ideal for buy and hold. If it's only an 80,000 ARV, 50, and you hadn't gotten paid yet, no closing costs, you may need to get a little cheaper. I would say in order for you to get paid, Pamela, you're probably going to need to get that property below 20, in my opinion, especially if you say it's a slow transaction area. All right. I'm not sure about the name here, but how do I keep my contracted buyer out of the loop from the price that I got it for? Well, if you have it under contract, they're going to eventually know when you close on it, unless you double close it. But I don't like to deal with buyers, guys, that don't understand it. I'm in it to make money. You want relationships with your buyers. You do however you want to, obviously, but I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. They're going to know that I don't care what, they're going to know that we agreed on a price. He's fine with the price. He shouldn't care how much I make. I don't want to deal with people like that. Matter of fact, I'm not going to deal with people like that, and know it anyway. They may not like it, but they better not let me know it. There's too many buyers out there if you have great deals. Kay Davis says, have an owner executive that will not tell me what he wants for a home. He told me to make an offer and he would take it to the heirs to discuss. Make an offer. And whenever they do that, you know, you make a ridiculous offer, something that you're embarrassed about. You know, they play that cat and mouse game. make an offer. You make a ridiculous offer, something that is ridiculously cheap. He may not accept it. If he rejects it, your follow-up question should be, well, how close can you come to that amount? All right. And you go from there. Your objective is get their least amount. So if he can't still give you that, then there's nothing you can do there. You know, he's playing a cat and mouse game that you can't win if he doesn't want to give you a price. You know, but if he wants you to make an offer, you're going to make a ridiculously low offer. Jeremy Collins says that a friend of mine, that their landlord wants to sell a house, they don't want to buy it. I want to find a creative way to get it without kicking them out. I don't have the cash. Any suggestions? If it's a friend of yours, stay away from that. Stay away from that. If you start renting from your friend, he's going to start counting your pockets. Jeremy can wait till the 18th to get his money. Trust me. Stay away from that. Just move on, man. If you can't just get it out right and they move out, I would strongly suggest that you stay away from that deal with a friend or family member. It doesn't work out well in a lot of cases. And just from my experience, when you're renting to a friend or family member, if you're they're still part of the deal. Now, if they don't want to move or whatever, and there's a deal that to be had, you want to feel obligated to, you know, give them some money, maybe to help them move in a little more. Then so be it. So someone's asking me by text, am I doing this video live? Yes, this video is live. But live Flippinar, I guess I have to keep repeating it or whatever. But all right, so who we got next? Mar Tennis says, you're inspirational. Hope you land on first. Okay, Mar says he's going to land his first deal tomorrow. Hopefully so. You getting paid tomorrow or just putting it on the contract, Mar? All right, Kate Davis says, has been baking for several years. Zillow has it at 167. Realtor has it at 158. Snap has it at 140. And high of 180 on home. Home is a 3-bed, 1-bath. I would probably give that an ARV around 145, 150. If you want to do a little more, a little less, it wouldn't matter. And, you know, price. So without knowing the repairs, if they said anything in below 100, it'd be worth going to take a look at. I would want it a lot cheaper, but that would be at least worth going to take a look at, and maybe you can get them a little lower depending on the condition. All right, Mark said, what's your take on wholesaling pre-foreclosure and foreclosed properties? Well, pre-foreclosures, that's dealing with short sales. People make an entire living off of doing those. Not my thing. Don't have the patience, the organizational skill. I know you keep seeing me say that, but I'm just real with myself. It takes patience. If you're going to do short sales, you need to be doing a lot of them, in my opinion. With just the REOs, that's a different ball game. It's traditionally you can't wholesale those without doing some type of purchase first, a transactional funding. And you have to have what I call lazy buyers, because it's not like REOs or foreclosures or secrets. They're being advertised to everyone. So, you know, but you can do deals on it, just a different process than just dealing with just a private owner. Jasmine Borkin says, what would be some good questions to ask a motivated seller who has taken equity out of the home? You mean if they don't have any equity? Jasmine, I hope I'm saying your name right. There's no opportunity there for you as a wholesale deal. Now, you possibly could do a lease option if it's a attractive house and have no trouble moving it, and depending on the school zone, obviously that can factor in. But if it has no equity in the house, there's no opportunity there on a wholesale deal. So hopefully I'm answering your question there. All right. Weber says, what do you suggest for building my website? Should I buy one? Wow, there's so many options out there on websites. Upwork.com, that's upwork.com, is a really good place to go get something built cheap because you can hire labor from India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, and so on. What I'll normally do, I'm a great copycatter. I don't know if I'm a great copycatter, but I like to copycat, find a website that you like and put a price on it. Hey, I'll pay $50 to duplicate this site with a few changes or whatever. You'll get bids. You know, the only thing is their time difference may be 10 to 12 hours different ahead of us. So you may do some late night conversating with them through Skype or through Upwork's message system. But that's where I would start. But it's just so many places you can get a website done. Understand what a website, that doesn't automatically mean that any business is going to come through if you don't have a plan to promote it, you know, because people won't know it exists. But I strongly suggest getting one at some point. JJ says, what should a detailed closing sheet say? Who's the seller? Who's the buyer? The address of the property, the price on the seller's contract, how much you're paid on your assignment, your expected pay for your assignment fee, who's paying the closing cost. Solomon Green, is it good to try to get branded houses? Get a banded houses and empty lot? I guess, I'm not sure what he means, but I guess it says an abandoned house in an empty lot, I guess he means, I'm not sure what you mean, Solomon, if you could clear that question up for us. Yes, new to the area, when you have paid someone to put out banner signs, did you put an ad on Craigslist? Yes. Now, I actually put the ad on Craigslist for something else that I'm doing marketing wise. And so this guy, he worked for me, but I really found another guy that I like a little better. And so, this guy here, it was a little bit more easier for him to do the other job, just putting out bandit signs. So I'm just driving them around or whatever. So now, you know, obviously it's Craigslist and you're not going to know these people. So, that's, you're going to have to make your own judgment on that. You know, I'm good with the guy that I'm dealing with at this point. If anything changes, I'll let you all know, but I'm good with them right now. So. All right, Brian Jeffers says, do you still have the bandit signs contact information, who they should speak to? Yeah, dirtcheapsigns.com. Don't order online, call and speak to either Curtis or Christina, let them know I referred you. They offer a 5% discount. It's not much, but over time that'll add up. So dirtcheapsigns.com, get the phone number from there, call Curtis or Christina, let them know I sent you. Do you, Eduardo Perm says, do you recommend virtual wholesaling? Yeah, it obviously can be done. Just understanding this, in my opinion, is harder than doing deals right there in your own market. It just is, you know, for a number of reasons. Keeping the seller and the buyer away from each other, your familiarity with your own market versus somewhere in another market that you're not familiar with. But yeah, it can be done. It's just more difficult. So you choose. All right. Marwan said, if it's Craigslist or maybe out of state Craigslist, I'm doing mostly cold calls right now. I appreciate it. Okay. Yeah. If you're doing those cold calls, I can say some action is better than none. Nothing, you stumble into a deal, but doing something better is better than not doing anything. I'm going to always stand on that. JJ Beauty says, can I use your one-page contract as is, or does it need to be seen by a lawyer or notarized? It doesn't need to be notarized. It's up to you if you want a lawyer to review it. That my contract could be perfect, but he's going to charge you something because he's going to do something to it because he has to justify why he's charging you. So the contract has been used all over the country. You know, it's just a simple contract. You're buying the property as is. This is not brain surgery. It's up to you. That's going to be a judgment call on you. Eddie Porter says, where's the best place to get a lockbox from, Lowe's or Home Depot? Solomon Green, is there something wrong with working with California people? No, not at all. I guess, Solomon, you hadn't went through a lot of my videos. One of the more recent videos I've done is Horse Testimonials. He was not even a student. He was just a YouTube subscriber. Never talked to him at all. Made $21,500 and out there in California. Look it up, $21,000 made in California. You'll see that video interview with Chris. So there you go. Marcus Spurlock says, do you open escrow as soon as you have a property under contract? Do you close with the same escrow company? No, I don't. I wait till a buyer's in place, because a lot of times your buyer would make that choice. So to answer your question, no. Let's skip some questions. All right. Russ says, Ty, why would someone have two mortgages on a home? I'll answer that question first. You know, you have a first and a second. They use the second mortgage to obtain equity. That's normally cash in their pocket to do whatever they want to with. Wouldn't a refinance deal be a single mortgage? Well, normally that's what happens. They'll combine both, but it's not necessary. You know, the first could refinance or the second could refinance without combining both. Refinancing, you say, are these two things related, refinancing and double mortgages? No, they don't have to be related. They don't have to be related. All right, Dylan says, how did you do your first wholesale? Wow, Dylan. Dylan, if you'll go back and look at any of my videos, if you see a time on there that has an hour or more, I go into great detail about that. It's just too long for me to go into it now, and I've repeated it so many times. But just go to my channel, and you see any of my videos that has an hour plus on it, I actually explain that within those particular Flippinars. No, not answer your question, but I have it on so many videos, and you know, you can hear that full story on how I did my first deal. All right, Tony says, as a wholesaler, are you supposed to know if the equity is in the house, and how would you know or not know? Well, that's a huge part of what your negotiations, just understanding whether you have a deal or not. Now, I have tons of videos on that also, Tony. It all boils down to what they're asking and what the house will sell for in excellent condition. We call that ARV. It stands for after repair value. Don't get confused with the repair part of it. It simply means what will the house appraise for in excellent condition. Just simply do a search on YouTube here, calculating ARV in 60 seconds, and I have a full explanation on how to come up with those numbers. And I have more videos, but that's the one that I can think of, the actual title off the top of my head. So Solomon Green says it's good to focus on buying abandoned houses or empty lots. You know, empty lots in most areas are not going to produce income. If they're not building in the area, in most cases, I'm not going to say the lot is worthless, but it's worthless to you as a wholesaler, because you're not going to be able to quick turn it. So to answer your question, you want a house sitting on the lot that you're trying to do a deal on. All right. Russ says, good comment about promoting your website. I agree. I think some of us forget to do that. Google AdWords You said it at work, but AdWords is a good, I think, good. Google AdWords are good, but it's very, very expensive, especially in the niche that you're targeting, which is sellers. You know, it's very, very expensive to do Google AdWords. Ty, will you talk to my husband and tell him wholesaling is legit? Yeah. I don't know, Pam. You know, he didn't know me from Adam House Cat. You know, I don't know what I can possibly tell him to convince him of that. Pam, wow. But you know, to answer your question, yeah, I'll speak with him. But if I would encourage you to, I like to think I make sense on some of this stuff. If you can sit down, if you can get him to sit down and watch, I think my video is called, I have a couple of names, but this one is like 19 minutes long. It's, and I did it in 2016. Wholesaling houses wholesaling houses, step by step with no cash or credit or something like that. If you can get him to watch that, if he can get past the first couple of minutes with all the promotion, all that stuff that I do, or whatever, and it should just make sense to him. Or if you can let him look at one of the whiteboard videos, which those are probably about 3 or 4 years old. Those are only like 2 or 3 minutes. If he can just get through those, if he can't see that, I don't know what I could possibly tell him or whatever. But you know, to answer your question, I would do that for you. All right. Dylan says, do you have any documents that we can download? Thanks for your time and appreciate your generosity. Yeah, Dylan, you can text the word contract to 313131. Text the word contract to 313131. You can get the exact contract that I've been using for more than 14 plus years as the date of this video. Jeremy says, I have a few bakers that I can't find on the tax records to find the owners and suggesting besides going to the tax office. Yeah, you need to figure out the addresses next door. You should be able to pull those. If you can't pull any of those, then yeah, you're going to need to go to the tax office, and they may, or sometimes the actual mailing address doesn't fit the address that the tax office has. So a lot, you know, depending on you get down there, because you're dealing with government employees, some of them can be very helpful. Some of them can be not so helpful. So yeah, but the first thing I would do is see if I can pull up any of the addresses on the street, period, before I would do that. Russ says, if time is money, wouldn't it make sense, make the most sense to have bandit signs printed from somewhere like Vista Print, fast, easy, and cheap? Well, Russ, do this for me. Go get a quote from Vista Print for corrugated plastic. That's the name of the material, corrugated plastic, 9x24, 2 color. And come back and give us a quote. Either you can post a comment on this particular video later on. If you already know the answer to that, you can post it now, and we'll compare pricing. I think I'm pretty sure I know the answer already, but you know, hey, you may have found a nugget for us. All right, next question. How do you get around earnest money deposit? You don't. You don't. There's some stuff you can do, but for the most part, if you're dealing with private sellers, normally it's not going to be that much. Most people can afford $10, $50, or $100. You're dealing with real estate agents, normally it's going to be $500 to $1,000. There are some things you can do that you can make offers. It's going to reduce the number of offers you probably get accepted, but you really don't get around it. But everything is negotiable now. Earnest money is not a law by no means. Everything is negotiable. Marwayne says, what do you mean by opening escrow? This is when you have a contract. I hear this a lot. In California, I don't know what other states use that phrase, but basically here, and I think a majority of the country, is just when you dealing with a title company, you basically put them on notice, hey, we have a deal in place with a seller and we're putting it in motion. That's the best way I can explain it. Someone may want to Google it quickly. I can't do it now because we're on this. Define opening escrow and post it here, and we can all learn tonight. I know what it means, but I just can't give you an actual definition of it. You know, I just know it means you're starting the process and you are letting a title company know they can go ahead and maybe possibly start, or escrow company, I guess you can call it, start doing the title work to see if they're who owns it, any liens or so on. All right. Tony says, what's a good cheap site to locate absentee owners? Well, ListSource and List Data are the two main sites that you can buy a list from. I don't know what your definition of cheap is, but on both of those, I think you have to spend a minimum of $50. Gus Quinton says, I must have missed out what you said about targeting HUD homes. You didn't. I haven't said anything about HUD homes. Anything can be wholesale, but that's going to be a very difficult process. You're going to have some things in place, mainly what I call a lazy buyer, in order to do those, because it's not like they're secrets. See, those are not secrets. You know, that you're not bringing something to the table that they couldn't have done themselves. Not saying that you can't do a deal that way, because you can. I'm just letting you know. And then the process with HUD is, you know what it is. If you're not, you can look it up, but just not my thing. You know, I don't try to tell people not to do something. I'm just going to tell you it's not my thing. I don't have the patience for it. And then what is the second part of it, that you have to deal with type of buyer you'll need from it. So you're going to cut off a lot of buyers by targeting those. But again, you can do deals that way. You know, some people are a lot smarter than I am. You can do deals that way. I just don't personally have the patience for it. Too many other opportunities out there. All right. Where are we? See, Dylan and Pam are conversating about the legitimacy of wholesaling. Hey, I've never experienced that. I don't know if I was married, how I would handle that. Everybody's different, of course. You know, you have the male role, you have the female role. The family structure is going to be different with, depending on who it is. But women that I date, they know how I am. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm dating you, you're going to reap the benefits of what I do. So there ain't gonna be no complaining. So, but I understand everybody, financial dynamics may not be the same. So it is what it is. Let me see here. All right. Cornell Walker said, what happened to the apartment bill I sent you? That's in motion. No, I'm not sure we're going to have a deal there now. If you have a buyer that you sent and you think they pulled the trigger, but I don't, a lot of people sent stuff. You need to contact them and see if they're buying it. If you didn't attach or follow all of them, you need to go back and do that. If it's in motion, they're buying it. I wouldn't know. Please let me know. How do you handle a vacant house and a trust? Well, someone has to be the trustee, which is, I guess, technically the decision maker. So you reach out to them and see if they're interested in selling. Still going to be a decision maker there to finalize a purchase. Pablo says, can you wholesale land? Yes, yes, you can. Teresa B looked up escrow, starting the closing process on the deal. I think that's what I said. Thank you, Teresa B, for that quick definition. Tabitha Hughes said, is contracting assigning a good way to get started? Tabitha, if you could be a little bit more clear on what you're saying there. Pablo is in Miami, Florida. What's going on? Dylan says, contract is an invalid code. Yeah, you just need to text me then if you're having trouble with your cell phone on doing a short code. Just text me directly my phone number. You'll see it on one of these videos. Catherine says, how do you deal with co-wholesaling? I'm actually involved in a co-wholesaling deal right now. Only gonna make $1,000, but guy called me and we talked about it. He sent over his assignment agreement. I put the price that I'm getting it for, well, as far as what I'm wholesaling to him for. I normally don't do it that way, but I don't think I was going to be able to find a buyer as fast as I needed to. So boom. So it just depends on the paperwork. Now I'm going to stay in control of the situation. Normally on a co-wholesale, I'm only going to be in a co-wholesale situation where I have the property in the contract with the seller and another wholesaler is bringing a buyer to the table. That's normally how it's going to work. I'm rarely going to go and seek out a property that another wholesaler. Now, sometimes wholesalers will call me and say, hey, can you help me? Okay, that's different than me actually reaching out. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I don't do it. All right, Weber did a search also, a bond deed or other document kept in the custody of a third party, taking effect only when specified conditions have been fulfilled. All right, Teresa B has further explanation of escrow. Escrow protects all the relevant parties by ensuring that no funds and property change hands until all conditions in the agreement have been met. Yeah, that's what it is. Remember, when you have a definition, you want to have something like that, Google is your friend. Now, I may have broke it down. Hopefully, I broke it down to you in a little simpler form, but that's easy there. If you have a question about something, define opening escrow, and Google will spit it out for you. Okay, Tony, that's funny. I'm gonna read that one out, but that's funny. All right. Cornell Walker. Okay, he said, okay, I got you. He says, Pablo says, can you wholesale land? I think I answered that, yeah. Cornell says, how many mailers do you send out a month? How many I should send out a month? I always answer the question as many as you can afford, but ideally, and then it didn't depend on how you're doing. If you're doing postcards, you're doing yellow letters, it depends on how you're doing. The postcards, you need to send out thousands a month to get the response you're looking. Yellow letters is at least 500 a month. I think, and that's a little over 100 a week, so 125 a week. All right, we're just gonna answer a couple of more here. Tony says, Tony said, do you have videos on wholesaling land? No, because I've never done it before. I think I've done a lot, but so to answer your question, I don't have enough experience, but it can't be that difficult. It's the same thing. If you find it cheap enough, you find a buyer for it. Matter of fact, You don't have to, unless a sign is on the property, you don't have to worry about showing the property. They just drive by, do whatever due diligence on it, boom. The contract process is not going to be any different. So wholesaling land would be easier as far as the process. It's going to be more difficult than finding a buyer for it, you know, depending on where it is, I think, you know, but the process is going to be the same. Coley Gleaton says, do you know if Jersey is a good state to wholesale? All states are good states to wholesale because you have the same problems in every state. People die, people relocate, people lose their jobs, people divorce, people get sick, people send kids off to college. All of these are reasons. They're tired landlords. All of these are reasons people are motivated to sell. So yes, New Jersey is a state you can wholesale in, just like any other state, because the same problems exist. Travis says, can you send direct mail to tax default property from the county tax book in Jefferson County? If he's talking about here where I am, yes, you can. They don't make it easy. They don't make it easy to identify properties. A lot of research in that. Someone ever just, you know, be here. Someone ever took that book and put it in a format that was usable for investors? Ooh, they can make a killing. You know, put it in just a simple online format or an app or something. Lord have mercy. Kate Davis says, where is Adamville? That's a suburb of Birmingham. I went to a fundraiser for one of my really good friends. He coaches Little League football, and I just went there to donate, eat some fish. So I bought this $20 t-shirt, and hey, I decided to wear it today. So boom, there you go. Adamville Tigers. Cornell Walker said, do you do follow-up mailings? I have, and I should do more of it. But to answer your question, you definitely should. You should do that. Follow-up is king in this business. And I really appreciate everyone on this came on tonight. I think I'm going to go ahead and round this up. We've been going an hour just like that. Boom, we'll be back next week. You comment in this on this particular video if you like this format, just me just going straight into a question and answering period versus the way I was doing it before. And we'll continue banging it out every Thursday. So again, we went an hour tonight. Please share this video. Join me my podcast, flipmanpodcast.com. If you're on Stitcher, if you're on an Android product, download Stitcher and just do a search for the Flipman. iTunes, on your Apple products, just do a search for the Flipman in your podcast, and boom, you can start, listening to what I have to say on the podcast. Tell a friend, family member about Flipman. Share these 200 plus videos to my YouTube channel. Subscribe. Remember my Instagram handle, flipman.net, all spelled out. Flipman, FLIPMANDOTNET is my Instagram handle, and the Flipman on Twitter, the THEFLIPMAN. So again, thanks for showing up tonight. We'll be back next Thursday, hopefully. Another question and answer round. I will analyze deals, have as much information as possible. And I will see you guys on the flip side.